Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hope you find this one interesting. This movie is a drama from South Korea. This has no dialogue, so you don't have to contend with any subtitles. Released in the year 2013, directed by Kim Ki-duk, and this film is called Moebius. So Moebius is about a teenage boy. His mother is psychotic, and when the psychotic mother realises that the father's been cheating on her, she takes out of frustration and commits an act of violence upon the son that leaves him horribly scarred, both physically and mentally. So since then she's escaped, she's gone missing, she ran away, and it's left the man, the husband, and the son to contemplate life after this event. So the boy is really down. He's no confidence whatsoever. He doesn't feel like a man. When he goes to school, he's bullied, and he's just constantly pushed around. So the father, because he feels responsible for this horrific event, he wants to try and build the confidence of his boy. And so he goes to great lengths in order to try and do this, but basically pushes both himself and his son down a very dark path where they pass the point of no return and they realise that nothing is ever going to be the same again. So what's in store for each involved is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Moebius. If you guys aren't aware of Kim Ki-duk, he really is the Korean version of Shion Sono and Takashi Miike, a director who is a provocateur, a director who's willing to take really taboo subjects and is willing to exploit those subjects to really anger an audience. He's really willing to push the envelope as far as the audience's limits are concerned. So he's pushing you to the absolute limits, so you don't feel like you're watching a film that's entertaining you. You feel like it's a film that's testing your endurance. And so it really hits you over the head with cruelty. You know, it's basically showing you the horrors of humanity that we want to believe don't exist in the real world, but it does. And so when someone actually forces you to watch something that is absolutely horrific and showing you what a human being can do to another human being, that to me is what a real director can do. It can show you something that has such an impact on the viewer. So his other films, Pieta, Bad Guy, and The Isle, were movies that really tested you as far as your endurance is concerned. Although I don't really love this director, I can appreciate the fact that he has his own style and he's willing to push it, and he's making films based on what he wants as opposed to watering it down in order for a cash grab. So making a movie based on the fact that he is a lover of movies. And so he has his own style. If you are a fan of Shion Sono and Takashi Miike, you definitely have to check out Kim Ki-duk, because although his films aren't brilliant in my opinion, they're still worth the watch because they are something different, and as I said, it just hits you in cold reality. And so coming into Moebius, I was preparing myself for the onslaught that I knew was coming. But after seeing the film, I will say that I was still absolutely devastated by what I saw. I believe that this is his most ambitious film, and I believe it's his most disturbing film as well, and that's saying something because his other films were deeply unsettling as well. But this movie, I think that the reason why it's so unsettling is because not only does it show you some absolutely horrific acts of violence that aren't glorified, and the fact that it leaves it up to your interpretation and leaves it up to your imagination as to what happened, I believe that is what gives the movie much more of a disturbing element, is that if you go over the top with violence, at some stage you become desensitized to it. But Kim Ki-duk doesn't allow you to become desensitized to this because he's not showing it in all its full effect. And so that is something that a lot of directors fail to do, is that they believe that if they show you gore at every second, you're going to be disturbed. But it's basically what drove that person to commit that act of violence that's the scariest thing. And I think that Moebius really symbolized that very well, based on the fact that it's an art house film. Now this movie is basically void of any dialogue, and at the start that it is basically it's a novelty, and it's something that does strike you as very unique. But unfortunately there's a little bit of a problem with that I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about the lack of dialogue was that it strips all humanity from these characters. It basically, the human interactions that you get from everyday people, because it's been stripped and these horrible acts of violence are happening to each other, I believe that this was a primal film. This is an animalistic film, and that animalistic film is also complemented by a religious undertone that the movie has. This is a movie that does take on the religion of Buddhism, and so the Buddhism matched in with the animalistic approach with the no dialogue gives it an almost surreal feel, and that surreal feel makes the violence, makes these characters even uglier. And so although it's not a strikingly realistic film, it still has that very cold underbelly that you would expect from a director like this. And so there were some themes in this film that were incredibly unsettling. You've got themes of incest, themes of sexual violence, gratification from pain, where there were some scenes where there was some sexuality mixed in with self-harm that I thought, wow, what are you doing, Kim Ki-duk? This is something I haven't seen in a Hollywood film, and I would never see in a Hollywood film. And so I wanted an extreme experience, and it's exactly what I got. So if you're preparing yourself for something and you're still devastated by what you're seeing, this is the power that Kim Ki-duk has, and he keeps you on edge until the very end, where it absolutely hits you like a sledgehammer. There is, I thought to myself at the halfway point of this film, this director can't surprise me anymore, but he does, and he really does hit you in the gut with a sledgehammer, and that's the power of this film. And so this movie reminded me of a very recent film called The Tribe, where it was in sign language, and because there's no subtitles, it's basically telling a story through the visuals, through the body language, and so that puts much more of an emphasis on the actors. And I thought the actors in Moebius were fantastic, especially the psychotic mother. She creeped me out to no end. This is a movie that borders on horror based on how this mother looked, and she was feeling the pain. It's also a movie about betrayal and what you'll do in order to get revenge on someone. And as I said, it's that sort of inhumane approach that the movie has that just hits that sort of message home even more. And so that was all just devastatingly real, and I just thought to myself, okay, I've watched a film that I haven't seen in a very long time as far as disturbing is concerned, and it's just a movie that really creeped me out and unsettled me to the point where I can say that this is the most unsettling film that I've seen this year. Unfortunately, it's not a masterpiece, and this shares the same problem that I have with a lot of other Kim Ki-duk films, in that it only goes for 80 minutes, but because there's a novelty of no dialogue, after a while it starts to get a little bit tiresome, and I started to feel frustrated because they weren't talking to each other, and there were some moments where I thought, just say something and just get it out of the way. And so I really appreciate the fact that he's trying something unique, but that unique sort of novelty that the movie has, it does wear thin. And that's the problem with his other films, is that the art house sort of approach that he takes in his movies starts to get in the way a little bit, and it starts to dampen the enjoyment. Well, I wouldn't say enjoyment as far as this movie is concerned, but it dampens the interest a little bit because it does become a little bit irritating. So that was the only real problem I had with this movie. In all, it is an incredibly disturbing ride. It's a movie that's going to test your endurance, so if that's something for you and you're a fan of extreme cinema, Moebius is definitely coming recommended, and as a result of that, I'm going to give this film 3 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.